So hi, everybody. The first thing I just want to mention is that this program is being recorded. We are going to put a recording of it up on our website. So I just wanted everybody to know that. We're happy to see you all here today. Welcome to Book Talks by Librarians with Karen, me, Jen, and Julie. So today we're going to talk about some of our favorite books. The list includes fiction and nonfiction selections. So sit back and enjoy.
Okay, I get to go first. So this is a memoir, Becoming Duchess Goldblatt by Anonymous. Meet Her Grace, Duchess Goldblatt. She is a Twitter celebrity and an 81-year-old literary icon. She has brought people together in bookstores, coffee shops, and of course, online through Twitter. She is also the Twitter alter ego of an anonymous woman who has charmed Twitter with her ability to make people smile, giggle, and feel like they matter. This anonymous author tells her story of how she created the Duchess Goldblatt persona, as seen here on the cover, to channel her own grief and frustration from the various upheavals in her personal life. By engaging with followers online, she was able to find a way through her own issues and to help others with their own struggles. Sprinkled throughout the book are several of Duchess's tweets, which are heart-lifting, cheeky, fun, and often the very words that you need to hear in that moment. For those who are on Twitter, you can certainly check out the Duchess at Duchess Goldblatt for a daily dose of Goldblatt prose. This is a very heartwarming book to a true story. This is a real thing, and we don't know who the author is, but she certainly has had an impact in making this character for everyone to enjoy on Twitter. And that's it for me.
Sounds awesome. Okay, I am up next. My first choice is Things We Lost to the Water by Eric Nguyen. It's a 2021 fiction selection. It's a captivating novel about an immigrant Vietnamese family who settles in New Orleans and struggles to remain connected to one another as their lives change. When Huan arrives in New Orleans with her two young sons, she's jobless, she's homeless, and she's worried about her husband, Kong, who stayed behind in Vietnam. She and her two sons try their best to make a life in New Orleans, and she continues to send letters and tapes back to her husband, Kong, hoping that they will be reunited and that her children will be able to grow up with a father. As time passes, though, Huan realizes she's probably never going to see her husband again. While she copes with this loss, her sons, Tuan and Bin, grow up in their absent father's shadow, haunted by a man and a country that only exists in their memory. As they move forward, the three adjust to living in America in different ways. Huan becomes close with a Vietnamese car salesman. Tuan tries to connect with his heritage by joining a Vietnamese gang, and Bin embraces his life in New Orleans. Each of them is on a search for identity as individuals and also as a family. And it's that search that threatens to tear the family apart. When disaster strikes the city, they must find a new way to connect to each other and honor those ties that bind them. This is the author's first novel. I think the story is beautifully written, and it does an excellent job exploring all the ways in which Vietnamese refugees are affected by dislocation. One of my top picks for the year.
Great. Okay, Kathy.
I believe it's my turn, and I'd like to recommend a book by Kate Moore. She is the author of The Radium Girls, if that title sounds familiar. This newest work by Moore is entitled The Woman They Could Not Silence. One woman, her incredible fight for freedom, and the men who tried to make her disappear. This was written by Moore. It was released in 2021. It's written in such a way that you feel as if, while turning the pages, you're right alongside the protagonist. Moore is an author whose talents enable her to recount history in a most compelling way. This is nonfiction, as I said, that is written as if the reader were an eyewitness to its occurrence. Elizabeth Packard, a housewife and mother of 5 minor children and a resident of Ohio during the mid-1800s, was born in an era when women were legally powerless. She was married to an insecure clergyman with whom she made the fatal error of disagreeing publicly. She was committed by him to an insane asylum in Ohio, a considerable distance from her family. The director of the asylum proves to be an enigma. Hopeful that he would be convinced of her sanity and prove to be an ally in her fight for release from the asylum, Elizabeth gradually realizes that he is no more than a member of the Old Boys Network. Throughout the events that follow, Elizabeth's eloquence, her reason, her determination, and her writing skills serve her well, enabling her to advocate both for herself and for other women who are similarly situated. The woman they could not silence. And I think that was of the 4 that I'm recommending today, that was at the top of my list. Most definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Okay. All right, let's go over to a thriller. So this is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. It is a fun, fast-paced guessing game of a thriller mystery kind of thing. It's perfect for fans of Agatha Christie or Ruth Ware. So as we all know, weddings are supposed to be happy, joyous occasions, but there's frequently some level of drama simmering just under the surface, waiting to blow. That is certainly the case for a couple, Jules and Will. Their wedding, which is going to be taking place on a historic castle on a remote Irish island that grumbling guests are reluctantly dragged to. No one really wants to make that trip over in the ferry to some strange island in the middle of nowhere. But it's a beautiful location, so why not? The story is told from multiple perspectives over the course of a weekend. The chapters are short, but always ending on a cliffhanger to keep you wanting more. It's full of quirky, strange, and downright unlikable characters sometimes, but that's okay, because you'll discover that everyone has something to hide, guests have an axe to grind, and in the end, not all the wedding party will make it to the last dance. You'll be left, you won't find out the big mystery, the big reveal, who did it until the very end, but I think that really works because of all the multiple perspectives, just keep you very engaged and keep you guessing. So The Guest List is a great thriller novel, and you will definitely be entertained. All right, cool.
Okay, this is me. My next choice, The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. Some of you may be familiar with her work. This was published in 2019. It's fiction. So at the end of the Second World War, Cyril Conroy combines luck and a single investment to begin an enormous real estate empire, propelling his family from poverty to enormous wealth. His first order of business after acquiring this wealth is to buy the Dutch House. It's a lavish estate in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. Meant as a surprise for his wife, the house sets in motion the undoing of everybody that he loves. So this story is told by Cyril's son, Danny, as he and his older sister, the brilliant, self-assured Maeve, are exiled from the house that they grew up in by their cold, unfeeling stepmother. The 2 wealthy siblings are thrown back into poverty their parents had escaped from and find that all that they can count on is each other. It's this unshakable bond between them that both saves their lives and also threatens their futures. Set over the course of 5 decades, The Dutch House is considered a dark fairy tale about 2 people who are having difficulty overcoming their past. Throughout their lives, they return to their well-worn story of what they've lost, sometimes with humor, sometimes with rage. But when at last they're forced to confront the very people who left them behind, the relationship between brother and sister is finally tested. I found this to be an incredibly moving story, especially I loved the exploration about the bond between these two siblings, and the descriptive writing about this house that sort of takes on a life of its own, and a past that really would not let these two go. So highly recommended.
I'm going to put that on my list, Karen.
I hope you enjoy it, Julie.
Absolutely. It's okay. I would like to tell you about and recommend a piece of historical nonfiction, rather dark to say. I mean, that's an understatement. It's entitled The Dressmakers of Auschwitz. It's by an author I've never read before. Her name is Lucy Adlington. This is a 2021 release. The Holocaust, among the darkest, most brutal and heinous campaigns in human history to systematically obliterate a portion of the human race. In this work of nonfiction, Adlington presents true accounts of European Jewish women whose skills as talented seamstresses and dressmakers enabled them to survive the barbarity of Nazi SS commander Rudolf Hess, the indifference and greed of Hess's wife Hedwig, and the death camps of both Auschwitz and nearby Birkenau. The sounds and smells of death in the showers of the camps, where thousands upon thousands of Jews, men, women, and children were separated from their families, stripped of their clothing, and herded to their deaths in gas chambers, provided the backdrop of daily life, if one can even refer to it as such. Prisoners barely subsisted on what passed for food. Their belongings were confiscated and warehoused for the taking by SS officers and their families, while prisoners had to fight amongst themselves, even for coverings for their feet. The reader is spared no detail. There is no subject, as I finished reading this, that could be any darker. And the very, very sad part of this is that it's true. And if there was any light at the end of the story, it was that a number of the dressmakers did survive. And needless to say, the bonds that were created by what they suffered through have kept them in touch with each other until the end of their respective lives. This is The Dressmakers of Auschwitz by Lucy Adlington.
Sounds very powerful, Julie.
It is. It is.
On that note, let's talk about Jane Austen. Bit of a subject change, but so here we have the Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. It is a charming debut by this author that is sure to delight any Austen fans. I can think of one here. So Jane Austen lived out her last days in the sleepy village of Chawton. And in the days just after World War II, her legacy still loomed large. People still very much enjoyed her work, as they do today. But after World War II, times are still hard, recovery, joblessness, all of that. And we meet several villagers of Chawton who are burdened by their own private sorrows, people who have lost loved ones in the war, sickness, unemployment, that kind of thing. And to cope with this, they're doing what they have always done. They turn to the works of Austen for solace and comfort. But when a developer attempts to buy the Austen property, raise her cottage to the ground, and turn it into a golf course of all things, these odd bunch of villagers take on the difficult task of maintaining the estate of Austen, along with the memory of the renowned author. If you're looking for a little escape, spend a few hours in Chawton with Jane Austen and her protectors. It's sure to be a delight. It's very lighthearted, and it'll give you a good feeling as you finish it up. So very much recommend it just for a little escape these days. And that's the Jane Austen Society. Well, all right.
Well,
Take it
Jen,
away.
I'm definitely going to be reading that one soon. I love Jane Austen, as you guys know, and I have not read that, so
Okay,
I will
cool.
do. Okay, my next choice is a little different. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, 2019 fiction. This novel was fascinating. It's about the whirlwind rise of an iconic 1970s rock group and their beautiful, talented leader. The story's riveting, and it reveals in the story the mystery behind their infamous breakup. So everybody knows the band Daisy Jones and the Six, but nobody knows the real reason why they split up at the absolute height of their popularity until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in Los Angeles in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on Sunset Strip, dating rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of beauty and talent that people are drawn to. Another band getting noticed is the Six, led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, Billy's girlfriend, Camilla, finds out she's pregnant. And with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little bit wild on the road. So Daisy and Billy end up crossing paths when a producer realizes the key to supercharged success would be to put the two of these people together. What happens next is the making of a legend. I loved this story. It was recommended to me by somebody at work here. The book was being kind of passed around from staff member to staff member. And I thought, oh, I'm going to give it a try. And then I realized that the author had said that she had based or was influenced in writing this book after watching Fleetwood Mac. So I am a huge Fleetwood Mac fan, love Stevie Nicks, love the music. So this was, I actually read the book, and then someone at work here said, oh no, you really need to listen to it. So then I listened to the audio, which is told from 7 different perspectives, and it was just fantastic. Can't say enough about it. I guess you guys can tell I really enjoyed it.
Sounds good.
Okay, the next selection on the list is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. If the author's name sounds familiar at all, it's because he's the author of The Silent Patient, which was his first novel. And that just, it pulls any sense of, that particular novel just topples you over. So thinking that this would be very much in the same tradition, I visited The Maidens. This is Michaelides' second novel. It is yet another adventure into the dark and macabre recesses of a troubled mind. Violent acts accost the reader at unsuspecting turns, but by whom are these acts committed and why? Michaelides exposes heinous and barbaric human behavior that is posed against the contrasting backdrop of Great Britain's ivy-covered walls of civility and higher learning. So the contrast is very effective. The author creates a distant sense of control only to lure the reader into an unexpected mire. Expect your blood pressure to rise and fall between the first and last pages of this tale numerous times. Again, this is Maidens, plural, by Alex Michaelides. Okay, that's that.
Cool.
Mm.
Okay, so it's Eric Larson again. I swear I pretty much love all of his books, but here he is back with another historical epic in The Splendid and the Vile, a saga of Churchill, family, and the defiance during the Blitz. So this is a terrific account of the darkest hour from the perspective of the Churchill family of London. Larson has a special talent which allows him to engage the reader and leave them learned as well as satisfied, which I always enjoy. This is nonfiction about the times when Great Britain was on the verge of falling into the hands of the Nazi regime, and yet Churchill and his charisma at that very moment prevented such a catastrophe. For those who are kind of weary of politics, don't worry, there's not too much politics in here. It's more about Churchill's family and what he did during those years, both as a public servant and as a family man. And it's also more about the spirit that kept the British carrying on, as they say, during the omnipresent threat of invasion that they experienced. I truly highly recommend this history book. It's a really great read of the defiance that led to the liberation of Europe in the later years of World War II. And I just always really enjoy Larson and his historical nonfiction books. So I think this is a great one here. All right, cool. Thank you.
That's good. So the next choice is Night Road by Kristen Hanna. Probably most of you are familiar with her as an author. This is one of her older books, and it is a fiction selection. Opens with protective mother Jude Faraday, who has always put her children's needs before her own. She has twins, Zach and Mia, and they're happy, well-adjusted teenagers. When a young girl, Lexi Bale, relocates to their tight-knit community, Jude welcomes her with open arms, despite the fact that Lexi has a bit of a dark past. Lexi quickly becomes Mia's best friend. Then Zach falls in love with Lexi, and the three become inseparable. In her children's senior year of high school, Jude's whole focus is keeping her children on track for college and keeping them out of harm's way. On a hot summer night, her worst fears come true. One decision will change the course of all of their lives, and the Faraday family will be torn apart and Lexi will lose everything. For years after, each one of them has to face the consequences of a single night and find a way to forgive. This, I think, is Kristen Hanna I like a lot of what she's written, but this is at her best. She's telling an unforgettable story about family, resiliency, and forgiveness. Thank you.
All right, Julie, tell us.
Okay, my next recommendation is entitled My Remarkable Journey, a memoir. This is written by Katherine Johnson. That name may be familiar to you. I'll tell you in a second a little bit more. It's written with two of her daughters, Jolette Heilich and Catherine Moore. The name Katherine Johnson, I say, might be familiar to you if you have either read or seen the movie Hidden Figures. She is a mathematician, and she's written a memoir of her life. She died at the age of 101, shortly before the completion of the memoir. And she was a committed scholar, mathematician, spouse, parent, colleague, and the embodiment of humility with an inquiring mind. What shines through in this particular reminiscence of her life is the importance to her of her family, of education, and of intellectual inquiry. She writes of racial segregation, having experienced it firsthand, initially as a child, but raised in West Virginia And then during the initial years of her employment with NASA in Virginia, when the space program was literally just getting off the ground. While sharing this historical information with the reader, she writes as a committed professional who sets her sights on exploration of the universe and the essential part that mathematics continues to play in that journey. She really is a remarkable and humble as can be. My Remarkable Journey, a memoir by Katherine Johnson. And that's
Great.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay, me. We're going to be looking at Shakespeare this time. Here we have Hamlet, a novel of the plague by Maggie O'Farrell. This is a window into another time, a time that has an almost uncanny resemblance to our own current situation with the pandemic. But it's also so much more than that, as it shows the grief that accompanies the loss of a child, of how quickly and invisibly a plague can travel from one place to one person to another, taking so many lives in the process. Drawing on the basis behind Shakespeare's most enigmatic play, Hamlet, with an N, is ultimately a story of marriage and loss. So Agnes is our main character. She is a mother. She is a woman often feared for her unusual gifts of intuition and herbalism. But despite her talents and her efforts, her only boy, Hamlet, still dies of the plague. 4 years later, her husband writes a play called Hamlet. Coincidence? Maybe not. Expanding on a loss just mentioned in footnotes, this story is a vindication for Agnes, a woman mostly absent from history. Shakespeare is never mentioned by name in this book. It is really just mostly about his wife, Agnes, and his only son, Hamlet, who did die at a very young age, but with no real explanation why. Taking this information, Maggie O'Farrell creates this novel, this story, using the facts that she has, and it's a very wonderful read. It definitely sucks you in, and you just feel like you're in a different place, even though it's based on historical facts. So this is Hamlet. Okay, great.
Sounds interesting. Okay, so we are going to move right over to a psychological drama, a tense page-turning drama about the making and breaking of a family, and a woman whose experience of motherhood is nothing at all what she hoped for, and pretty much all that she feared. Blythe Connor is the mother in this story. She's determined to be a better mother to her new baby, her young infant, than her own mother was to her. Her daughter's name is Violet. But as Blythe struggles with the demands of caring for an infant, she becomes convinced that something is really wrong with her daughter, that she does not behave the way that most children do. Or could it be in her head? Her husband says she's imagining things. The more that he dismisses her fears, the more Blythe begins to question her own sanity. And the more we begin to question as readers what Blythe is telling us about her life. Is it true? Is she accurate? Then they have a second child, a son, Sam. And with him, Blythe has the blissful connection she'd always imagined with her child. Even Violet seems to love her little brother. But when life as they know it changes in an instant, the devastating consequences force Blythe to face the truth. So I would say if you like edge of your seat psychological dramas, this is the perfect choice for you. I took it with me on a beach vacation with extended family, and it passed through probably about 8 people's hands. It's a quick read, and it definitely keeps your attention. And so that's it for me.
All right, let's finish it off with Ruth Ware's latest mystery novel. I always seem to tend to recommend a Ruth Ware novel every time we do these, and that's for good reason. She's got some great mysteries that I always enjoy. So we have One by One by Ruth Ware. It is a slow burn, isolated, closed circle murder mystery kind of book. It's in the tradition of classic writers like Agatha Christie kind of thing. You're stuck in one place. Who did it? Who killed? Who's the murderer? It is a dual perspective narrative following a group of people at a corporate ski retreat. But after an avalanche snows them in, people begin to die in suspicious ways. Who's doing it and why? That's the big question. One perspective is from an outsider of the group, just one of the hosts of the private ski chalet, just there to do her job and go home. That's all she wants. The other one is from a nervous, introverted guest who was reluctant to be there from the beginning. So you get to the question of why is she there at all if she didn't want to be there. And even after you find out who the killer is, the tension does not end there with a climax that details a very intriguing and exciting cat and mouse game as you're kind of stuck with that person who's doing the crimes. Ware's writing is so easy to get caught up in, and either way, if you've read Ware before this or this is your first book of hers, you're going to enjoy One by One, especially as the weather gets a little chillier outside and you really feel that snow coming in. But yeah, definitely One by One, give it a shot and you won't be disappointed.
Sounds
And
great.
that's it.
So we are at the end. Like to just say that we are going to post this video online. If you missed anything or you just want to hear it again, we will also post a document that has the titles and brief descriptions of the books as well. So just give us a little bit of time to get that up. It should probably be up by either this afternoon or tomorrow. We're glad you guys took the time out of your afternoon to join us, and we love talking about books that we love. And if you have any requests or for more of a certain genre or less, or please let us know. You can get in touch with any one of the three of us. You can call the reference desk. Jen or Julie, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
Just that, thank you that you all came. Thanks for listening to us. We always like to talk about what we enjoy reading and sharing it with you. We'll print out handouts as well and keep them at the reference desk. So you're welcome to pop by and pick up a handout as well, if you'd like. So yeah, otherwise, thank you all.
And who knows, maybe in the spring, we'll be in a place where we're actually able to get together and do it in person.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jen and Julie too. And it was great seeing all of you.
Great.
Bye-bye. Have a good afternoon.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.